My name is Joel Hellman. I'm the new Dean of the School of Foreign Service here at Georgetown University, and it's my honor to welcome you here tonight for the inauguration ceremony for the Sheikh Sabah Al-Salem Al-Sabah chair. I'm particularly pleased to have such an eminent group to join us for this evening's event. First of all, of course, it's wonderful to have our speakers here, Dr. Hassan Al-Ibrahim, and His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed Sabah Al-Salem Al-Sabah. We're also extremely pleased and honored to have here His Excellency the Kuwait Ambassador to the United States, His Excellency and the appointment of Joseph Sassoon in that chair. I want to say, first of all, a couple of words about Joseph Sassoon, and then I will turn it over to our president. But first, to have such a chair that really focuses on deep scholarship and an engagement in practice, we couldn't be luckier to have here Professor Sassoon, who joins us after a remarkable career as a banker and wealth manager and advisor at Goldman Sachs at a time when many of us would be relaxing and retiring. He turns around and writes award-winning books on Middle East politics, on Iraq, on an understanding of authoritarian states in the Middle East, and he brings together the combination of scholarship and engagement and practice that we like to think of as a hallmark of the success of the School of Foreign Service. So I'm particularly pleased to be here tonight to inaugurate the Al-Sabah chair with just a perfect example of why this school has had such success, not only in Middle East studies, but in general the study of international affairs. And we have a great opportunity to hear from him and others tonight. Let me start by introducing Jack DeGioia, our president. I've been around for a short time, but one of the things that I have learned already is that Jack DeGioia, despite a lengthy and impressive resume that could keep us here for some time, does not like long introductions. And so I will just introduce him as really playing a leadership role across this university for the last 3 decades and our president since 2001. And really, for me, the spirit behind Georgetown's commitment to interfaith, dialogue and understanding, and global engagement. So thank you, Jack. Look forward to this.
Thank you very much, Joel, for those kind words, your thoughtful and committed leadership of our School of Foreign Service. I think all of you have had a chance to perhaps spend a little bit of time world and of the state of Kuwait, providing our students with a richer, more nuanced understanding of an essential region in our world. As Joel mentioned, we're honored to have so many wonderful guests here today. I especially would like to acknowledge His Excellency, Sheikh Sabah Al-Sabah, and His Excellency, Dr. Sheikh Sabah Al-Salem Al-Sabah. It is a great honor for us to have you here with us today. The ambassador and I remind each other from time to time that we both started in our roles here in Washington at the same time, and we've kind of been through all of this together now for 15 years. I count the ambassador among my closest friends here in Washington, and it is so a great privilege to welcome you here. And to have you back here on campus, it is a great honor, and I just can't tell you what it means to us to be able to celebrate this moment with you. I also would like to honor Her Excellency, Hunaina Al-Mugari, who is with us this evening, and I want to thank you for celebrating this special moment with us. I also wish to thank Dr. Hassan Al-Ibrahim and recognize him for his longtime support of our Center for Contemporary Arab Studies. Third Al-Sabah chairholder this evening. And Joseph, it's wonderful to have this opportunity to celebrate you this evening, and we look forward to hearing your remarks in just a few minutes. Here at Georgetown, we are guided by a characteristic spirit, an ethos. It's a way of being that's guided by a deep tradition, that's grounded in our Catholic and Jesuit identity. It's a way of being that calls us intentionally to engage with our world, deepen our responsibility for both understanding and our commitment to one another. Our Center for Contemporary Arab Studies is one of the ways we uphold and animate this responsibility. Founded in 1975, the center is now the most comprehensive university-based Arab Studies program in the United States, offering more than 100 Arab world-related courses each year in partnership with departments across our university. The center is deeply invested in scholarship and teaching. Let me just share a few examples with you. Since 1983, when the center established a community resource service to, quote, develop and provide resources for education about the Arab region and Islam, through this nationally recognized resource, faculty and graduate students at our center share their expertise at local schools. Primary and secondary school educators have access to training sessions, a library of free resources. It's just one way to deepen understanding. For nearly 3 decades, the center has held an annual symposium bringing together scholars and practitioners for discussion on some of the most pressing issues in the Arab world. Last year's symposium focused on the political ecologies of shale oil in the Middle East, U.S., and China. And the center's Al-Sabah chair, which we celebrate tonight, in its mission of advancing scholarship on the political economy of the Arab world, and especially the Arab states of the Gulf, creates a context for ever richer dialogues across culture. It's through this richer dialogue that we are able to strengthen our global community, build trust, and contribute to making our world a stronger, safer place for future generations. We're so deeply grateful to the scholars who have contributed to the center and to this chair, and for the extraordinary support of the state of Kuwait. I want to thank all of you for being with us tonight, and it's now my pleasure to turn over this podium and to welcome Dr. Sheikh Sabah Al-Salem Al-Sabah, who will offer some remarks.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. President DeJoya, ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely privileged and pleased to be here with you this evening for fundamentally three reasons. First, it's really great to be back to Georgetown. None of you know this fact, not even my son who's here. But first, when I came to this country, was back, was ages. I was a young kid, just graduated from high school, and my brother was the ambassador in Washington, D.C. then. And he said, the best way to get proper American education is to retake American high school. You have to go back to high school and do your 12th grade. You have to understand the mentality of the Americans, especially kids in your age. So guess where did he send me? It was Georgetown Prep. And was quite an experience. And that's where I built actually my character. And I think that I developed a solid thrust and drive for excellence, to use another word. And I attribute my success in academia actually to this solid foundation that I got from Georgetown Prep. It's the most beautiful campus in the world, right on Wisconsin Avenue, past the Beltway. It's a lovely place. So I'm particularly happy to be back to this institution. But secondly, I'm truly grateful for this effort by Georgetown to reinvigorate the chair. It's a chair that was named after an Emir, a leader who made his primary achievement in his reign as a leader of a country, small country, in the area of education and in scholarship. He was the one who established Kuwait University, in which we are all, Dr. Hassan and myself are currently and was also member of the faculty. And he was the one who also established numerous, during his period, numerous scientific institutions. And he established a foundation which I have the honor of running, the Sabah Al-Salem Foundation, which primary objective is to provide scholarship to students from all over the Arab world who do not have the ability to continue their higher education. So it is. So I'm truly pleased that Georgetown have appointed such a distinguished scholar, Joseph Sassoon, who's well known in our part of the world and in the academic community all over the world for his exceptional excellence in scholarship and knowledge, in-depth knowledge, not only in just the history, but the history, sociology, and economics of the Arab world. So I'm truly honored that he would be the one who's chairing and running this chair. And finally, I'm truly pleased that this reinvigoration, I like to use the word that you have used, at this time when our region, the Middle East, has been subjected to fundamental challenges that is rocking it from its foundation. Some of these challenges are of an existential threat to the very concept of city-state and in statehood in some of the countries. Some of our countries in the region are facing total destruction, elimination, and this is something that have a profound impact not only on people who live in that region, but also it will have a fallout on all people around the world. We have seen that the perception of Islam has been used in some of the political circles in a negative way. I think a chair that promote understanding of the contemporary Arab culture and science and history and values at this time in such an institution of Georgetown and this city, Washington, D.C., is of profound importance to us, and I hope that it would serve the purpose of establishing this chair in the sense to bridge the gaps of knowledge and understanding between different cultures, different people, and different societies. President De Joya, yes, our names are not very easy to pronounce. I found it struggling but you got our names correct. Yes, we have difficult names. We look different from an average
President DeGioia, Provost Groves, Dean Hellman, distinguished guests, friends and colleagues, good evening. It is my great honor to join you in celebrating the inauguration of the Sheikh Sabah Al-Salem Al-Sabah chair at Georgetown University. I hope my pronunciation is better. Especially in these beautiful surroundings, and I thank President DeGioia for his kind welcome and hospitality. The Al-Sabah Endowed Fund, as you've already heard, was established at the Center for Contemporary Arab Studies in June 1980 and was named in honor of the late Emir of Kuwait, His Royal Highness Sheikh Sabah Al-Salem Al-Sabah. Our distinguished keynote speaker, Dr. Hassan Al-Ibrahim, was instrumental in crafting and finalizing our original agreement. It is so fitting that he can be with us tonight to mark the inauguration of our third Sabah chairholder and celebrate a partnership of nearly 4 decades between Georgetown University and the state of Kuwait. In October 2012, we were fortunate to augment the Al-Sabah Endowed Fund at CCAS, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the individuals who were indispensable to renewing or reinvigorating our agreement with the state of Kuwait. His Excellency, Dr. Sheikh Muhammad Sabah Al-Salem Al-Sabah, whom I'm so pleased to see again, and who was the most gracious host to Professor Sassoon and me when we visited Kuwait in March. We are privileged by your presence, Your Excellency, and we are thankful for the opportunity to honor you with the memory of His Royal Highness, your late father, especially within weeks of Kuwait's National Day and Liberation Day. His Excellency, Dr. Yusuf Al-Ibrahim, a long-standing friend of the CCS and a member of its Board of Advisors, who unfortunately cannot be with us this evening, but whose patient and generous guidance paved the way to this evening's distinguished gathering. His Excellency, Ambassador Salim Abdullah Jabir Al-Sabah, whose philanthropic support of Arab studies has done so much to strengthen the bonds of friendship between Georgetown and the state of Kuwait. And I'm especially grateful to Ambassador Al-Sabah and his wife, Sheikh Harima, for their recent endowment of the CS Kuwait America Foundation Graduate Scholarship for underprivileged students from the Arab world. I would also like to mention the late Dean of the School of Foreign Service, Professor Carol Lancaster, who made our trips to Kuwait as lively as they were rewarding. The renewal of the Al-Sabah gift was one of Carol's utmost priorities, and she would be so pleased and proud to see us assembled here. And I'd also like to recognize Professor Emeritus Michael Hudson, who has been equally integral to the long history of the Sabah Chair and who helped restart our conversations with our Kuwaiti friends and partners. I cannot thank each and all of you enough for your wisdom, support, and encouragement as we progress towards tonight's grand occasion. Along the way, I was mostly gratified to receive the trust and friendship of our Kuwaiti partners, and I look forward to years of enriching academic collaboration and engagement with them through the Al-Sabah Chair. Ms. Lori Fitch, Chair of our Board of Advisors, regrets that she is unable to attend the ceremony, but she joins me in thanking our distinguished guests for this wonderful opportunity to showcase the relations of mutual respect and understanding between our respective Kuwaiti and American communities. And now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our man of the hour, Dr. Joseph Sassoon, Associate Professor at Georgetown University, and more importantly, holder of the Al-Sabah Chair in Political Economy. Professor Sassoon completed his PhD at St. Anthony's College in Oxford and has published extensively on the economic history of the Middle East. In 2013, his book on the Iraqi Ba'ath Party garnered the prestigious British Kuwait Prize for the best book on the Middle East. And more recently, he was fellow at the Woodrow Wilson Center for International Scholars here in DC, and was invited to the American Academy in Berlin for the Holbrooke Retreat on Authoritarianism. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm simply thrilled to be able to introduce Professor Joseph Sassoon, holder of the professorial Al-Sabah Chair in the Political Economy at Georgetown University.
Thank you all. Good evening. It really gives me a great pleasure to be here. First of all, I would like to offer my deep gratitude to Sheikh Mohammed Al-Sabah for sponsoring the chair. to Georgetown University, which has been my home for the last 7 years, and it has been a very happy home, to Osama and my other colleagues at the Center for Contemporary Arab Studies that have been superbly supportive from the first day that I came here. I believe this chair will expand the cooperation between Georgetown and Kuwaiti institutions, and I look forward to being part of this effort. In fact, I will be going to Kuwait at the end of March to give a talk at Kuwait University. I would like, in the short time given to me, to talk about a subject that is on our minds these days, and Sheikh Mohammed Al-Sabah referred to very briefly, and that is the increasing violence in the Middle East. I recently finished a book on authoritarianism in the Arab republics that will be published next month. And one of the issues that really emerge from studying these republics is that the leaders in these republics used violence increasingly against their population and against other countries. Engaging in violence against other countries became a continuation of violence against their own citizens. And a case in point is the invasion of Kuwait in August 1990. We have now, for the first time, an incredible opportunity to examine the Iraqi archives that deal with the invasion of Kuwait. In summer 2015, the Hoover Institute at Stanford University opened these archives. The data set of more than 725,000 archival material contained the Iraqi military, administrative documents, intelligence reports, and Ba'ath Party from the day of the invasion until the liberation. An examination of these files allow us to better understand how the Iraqi regime under Saddam Hussein perceived violence and how the invasion actually was a continuation of the system that became embedded in the governance of Iraq. In my book on Saddam Hussein and the Ba'ath Party, I actually argued that Iraq was not just a republic of fear, that there was a system of rewards and punishment. However, when the Ba'ath Party came in 1968, the first thing it did was launch massive arrest of anyone suspected of opposing the party, and within a few months launched subduing the local population. There was no attempt to gain the support of the local population or even segments of it. On the contrary, the invading forces used brutal force in spite of the fact that there was little military opposition a few days after the invasion. The appointment of Ali Hassan al-Majid, known as Chemical Ali, a member of the Revolutionary Council, a cousin of Saddam Hussein, as the person in charge of Kuwait underlines my argument. Saddam Hussein did not appoint a military general nor a capable administrator. Irrelevant of age or status. In one instant, children aged 7 to 12 were shouting slogan and waving the Kuwaiti flag. Iraqi forces chased them until they reached their house, where their parents were arrested. Anyone working on the Iraqi archives is incredibly amazed how meticulous the filing is of these archives. So typical in the occupation, a daily report reached Ali al-Majid. He proceeded in his handwriting, commenting along in the documents, along the lines of his punishing and unforgiving policy, and I quote, "The owner of the house and his wife to be hanged outside their house, and their house with its content to be burned." This policy of inflicting severe punishment on all members of the family became already in 1979 an essential ingredient in dealing with the so-called enemies of the state. The invading forces confronted many issues and challenges. On the Kuwaiti side, they had to deal with shipping property back to Iraq, Kuwaitis attempting to flee, foreign nationals residing in Kuwait, and last but not least, dealing with the real Kuwaiti resistance that began to develop very soon after the invasion. On the Iraqi side, the Iraqi leadership had to contend with the issue of the behavior of the Iraqi soldier and the looting that began to spread, with or without the encouragement of the authority. One memo tells us that many soldiers have participated in the stealing of materials from commercial shops as well as residential areas in Kuwait City, and emphasized that this was affecting the security situation of civilians and creates instability. The memo warns that these cases do not encourage Kuwaiti shop owners from opening their shops due to fear of theft and create hurdles for the Iraqi command in creating what it called a safe feeling among the civilians. Indeed, the documents show us that there was a tension within the Iraqi leadership between some of those who advocated for long-term integration of Kuwait versus those who sought to plunder it as quickly as possible. Some in the Iraqi bureaucracy wrote documents and memos realizing the need to provide at least the most organizing delegations from Iraq, from the different ministries, from different institutions, and then come back to Baghdad and send what they called their shopping list. There was a strong belief in the Iraqi leadership that the documents clearly show, that the Kuwaitis had too much of everything, and thus it was justified to loot the country. Just to give you an idea, 6 weeks after the invasion, the looting was at such an extent, and the amount of material that accumulated was so huge that the president created a special committee for dealing with what he called spoils of war. But plundering was not limited just to schools and medical supplies. They sent a team to crack the safe of Kuwait Central Bank, took funds from the local banks, looted royal palaces, transferred money and equipment from dozens of businesses, factories, and warehouses. Equipment and furniture was stripped from Kuwait Airport and Kuwait Airlines. And then the seized property was sent to the different ministries in Iraq who could put them to use. For example, some of the money seized from the Kuwait Central Bank was actually used to pay the salaries of the soldiers. And so it seems that despite some efforts to return shops to normal function or make some attempt to long-term development, the senior officers who believed in the predatory policy carried the day. Indeed, Kuwaitis did not have one normal day of life under the Iraqi occupation. The Iraqis' regime violent way of interacting with Kuwait was not the result of commanders improvising on the ground or trigger-happy soldiers lacking discipline. Yes, the lack of discipline was an issue, but it was a much bigger issue than that because there were instructions and policy coming from the top leadership. A case in point, for example, are instruction given by the top leadership to units carrying out inspection of houses in Kuwait, and I quote, "If residents refuse to open their doors for any reason, Iraqi forces should break their windows, break down the front door, arrest the family inside, burn down the house in front of them, and send them to prison in Basra." So based on these documents, there is no doubt that the Iraqi leadership had a far more comprehensive strategy of dealing with Kuwait, and that is displacement of the majority of Kuwaitis and replacing them with Iraqi and Arab nationals who supported the Ba'ath regime. This is very similar to the Arabization policy that Saddam Hussein and Ali Majid pursued in northern Iraq against the local Kurdish population. So therefore, the similarity that existed between the violence in Iraq and Kuwait, the brutal force, the punishing members of the families, and the displacements were all tried and tested in Iraq. Let me conclude by saying that the violence we are witnessing today in countries such as Iraq, Syria, and Libya can be traced to the fact that the leaders in these countries endorsed violence to the extent where it became the main currency in dealing among political factions. The fundamental fact is that the leadership abused the population in these countries for decades. And so it became natural that certain segments of the population resort to violence in dealing with any opposition. And unfortunately, this will take some time before a new page and a brighter era in the region begins. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Sassoon. You can see why we are so pleased and proud to have him here as the holder of the Al-Sabah chair. Characteristically careful, considerate, thoughtful scholarship based on analysis of documents, looking at issues that are critical for understanding of the past, and thinking about the future. It's a great model of the scholarship here at Georgetown at the School of Foreign Service, and we're so pleased that you get to hear just a snippet of it this evening, and hope that will lead you to look even further at Professor Sassoon's work, written and otherwise. Let me now invite you to dinner just across the way, where we have food, drink, and more remarks, and more examples of some of the work we're doing here at CCAS. Thank you very much, and we look forward to the dinner.